Welcome to the Gospel Road. We're going to look at John chapter 6. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a large crowd was following him because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up to the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then, and seeing the large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would be enough for each of them to get a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many?" Jesus says, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men went down, and about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he gave thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had their fill, he told the disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who has come to the world." Perceiving then that they were about to come and take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew again to the mountain by himself. When evening came, the disciples went down to the sea, got in the boat, and started across the Sea of Capernaum. It was now dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because of the strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were frightened. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." Then they were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. On the next day, the crowd remained on the other side of the sea, saw that there had been only one boat there, and that Jesus had not entered the boat with his disciples, but that his disciples had gone away alone. Other boats from Tiberias came near the place where they had eaten the bread after the Lord had given thanks. So when the crowd saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they themselves got into the boats and went to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, you are seeking me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate your full fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. For on him God the Father has set his seal." Then they said to him, "What must we do to be doing the works of God?" Jesus answered them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." So they said to him, "Then what sign do you do that we may see and believe you? What do you perform? Other fathers ate the man in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave the bread from heaven to eat." Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." They said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whosoever believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet do not believe. All the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never cast out. For I have come down from the heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing of all that he has given me, but raise it up on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and raise him up on the last day. So the Jews grumbled about him because he said that I am the bread that came down from heaven. They said, it is not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know. How does he now say that I come down from heaven? Jesus answered, do not grumble among yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father has sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they will all be taught by God. Everyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me. Not that anyone who has seen the Father except he who is from God, and he has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, whoever believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread that comes from heaven, so that one may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I give for the life of the word is my flesh. The Jews then disputed amongst themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Whoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. And the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father. Whoever feeds on me, he also will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven, not like the bread that the fathers ate and died. Whoever feeds on this bread will live forever. Jesus said these things in the synagogue as he taught at Capernaum. When many of the disciples heard it, they said, this is a hard saying. Who can listen to it? But Jesus, knowing in himself that his disciples were grumbling about this, said to them, didn't you take offense to this? Then what if you were to see the Son of Man ascending to where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh is no help at all. The words that I have spoken to you are in the spirit of life. But there are some of you who do not believe. For Jesus knew from the beginning who those were who did not believe, and who it would betray him. And he said, this is why I told you that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by the Father. After this, many of his disciples turned back and no longer walked with him. So Jesus said to the 12, do you want to go away as well? Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You are the words of eternal life, and we have believed and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God. Jesus answered them, did I not choose you, the 12? And yet one of you is a devil. He spoke of Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, for he, one of the 12, was going to betray him. John chapter 6, talking about Jesus feeding the 5,000, walking on water, and how he's the bread of life. So it's talking about salvation, and using the flesh and the blood as the going forward, asking him, surrendering to him, the sacrifice that he is going to do when he dies on the cross, which is the flesh and the blood, because he died becoming the ultimate sacrifice that we could become born again. We ask him to forgive us, to live inside us. But the biggest piece I see in here is the faith. He walks on water. He comes to the boat. He says, it's me. Don't worry. They have faith. It's him. Get on the boat. The feeding the 5,000. We have the bread and the 2 fishes and the 5 loaves of bread. It's the faith. It's the prayer that, Jesus did on that was able to feed them what they still had 12 baskets left after feeding. Then he walked on water. The people on the other side of the sea go over there, and where did you go? We're wanting to know more. And Jesus kind of calls them out on that. He said, you're not following me over here because of my teaching. You're not following me over here because of what I'm offering to you. You're following me over here because I fed you. Which brings up an interesting point. And there's two ways to look at this, because we do need to take care of the poor, those that are hungry, the needy. And we do have events that you have at church to invite people in to feed them. But this is where I remember when we read in the scriptures where it says that many are called but few are chosen. So the only way to come to Christ is that, God sent them to see Jesus. But now is where the faith steps in. The faith of how they will make that step. Are they going to believe in Jesus because of the signs and the miracles, or are they going to believe in him because he's giving him free stuff, he's feeding him, he's clothing him, he's doing all these things? It's a narrow line that you have to be careful with. So again, we're building that relationship. We're building that one-on-one, that personal relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, and believing, having faith in what we read and what we learn and what we feel and what we're being told. But there's going to be some that are going to come in because of feeding them, because of clothing them, because of loving them and encouraging them. But there will be those that are going to come in, and none of that's not really going to matter. They're just going to come in with their hands out. It happens. I mean, we all have heard about, the nonprofits, helping people, and some of them, no matter what, their hand's always there. The government giving the handout to the people, and there's some that, no matter what, they're just not going to do anything to better themselves. This is just where they're going to be. There's going to be those people. We cannot change them. They can only change themselves. And if that's the decision that they're going to make, that's the decision they're going to make. We're not able to change that. But we can decide in our own lives why we are believing what we believe and why we are making the decision we are making. So we go to a church, we go to a function, we have something given to us. Do we keep going back with our handout because they just keep giving it to us? Or do we go back because there was a deeper meaning? There was a deeper relationship. There was a deeper word that touched you, and you want to learn and know more. I know I've said it many, many, many times that when I really started reading the scriptures, and I had to start reading it, that I'd never seen it before. And when I started doing that, then it started changing the way I was thinking. It was changing how I was viewing different things. It was really weird because I knew these. I knew the Bible. I grew up in church. I knew all this stuff. And I'm reading it and I'm going, I don't know any. I mean, I know a lot of the basics, but I really didn't have that experience. And now I'm actually getting that experience. In the prior podcast where I was talking about a friend of mine that had been teaching a class with Harry Blackaby's book, Experiencing God. And he says, when you read through this, there is no way you cannot change how you're living, how you're thinking, what you were doing. Because it's that experience is what creates that personal relationship. So you follow Christ because of that personal relationship that he's going to give with you. That one-on-one that you are going to have with Christ, with God. So are you doing it because you want it, you want to learn more? Or are you doing it just because you know you're going to get something free out of that? It's a question to ask. Now, when you are the person supplying that, you cannot let that discourage you. You cannot let that get in the way of what you're doing. It can be rough. It can be hard to do that. John chapter 6, that's what we looked at tonight. As always, read it. What is it that you get out of that by yourself? I can't say it enough. It's that personal relationship between you and God. We can have that relationship because of Jesus Christ. Thank you for listening to the Gospel Road. Have a great day. God bless.